100 years ago, Black History Month did not start as a month at all. In 1926, a historian named Carter G. Woodson noticed something troubling. Black Americans were missing from history books, classrooms, and public memory. Their stories were treated like footnotes, if mentioned at all. So, Woodson created Negro History Week with the goal of reminding the country that Black history is American history, filled with builders, thinkers, fighters, and dreamers whose lives shaped the nation. Over time, that single week grew louder and stronger. Schools began to teach it. Churches and communities organized events. During the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s, Black history became a tool of pride and resistance, helping people understand the origins of the fight for freedom. Today, 100 years after Woodson's idea was born, Black History Month is still doing its work. It tells the stories of enslaved people who survived, activists who marched, artists who spoke truth, scientists who changed lives, and everyday Black Americans who pushed the country forward. However, every February the month asks the same question it has always asked. Who gets remembered, and why does that memory matter for America's future? Black History Month did not begin with parades, brand campaigns, or social media posts. It began with a problem. In the early 1900s, Black Americans were almost invisible in school textbooks and public history. Their stories were ignored, erased, or twisted to focus only on pain and failure. In 1915, a quiet but determined historian named Carter G. Woodson decided this could not continue. Along with Minister Jesse E. Moreland, he founded an organization dedicated to studying and preserving Black life and achievement. That organization is known today as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, ASALH. Its mission was clear: if America would not tell Black stories, Black scholars would tell them themselves. Woodson's passion was deeply personal. He was the son of formerly enslaved parents and understood firsthand how history shaped dignity and opportunity. Despite growing up poor, he educated himself and later became only the second Black American to earn a PhD from Harvard University after W.E.B. Du Bois. Woodson believed history was power. In 1926, he launched Negro History Week, a focused effort to teach Americans about Black contributions to the nation. At the time, most newspapers, universities, and publishers either ignored Black life or portrayed it negatively. Woodson wanted to change that narrative by highlighting Black inventors, leaders, soldiers, scholars, and everyday people who helped build America. Negro History Week did not appear out of nowhere. The 1920s were alive with Black creativity and confidence. This was the era of the Harlem Renaissance, also known as the New Negro Movement. Black writers, musicians, artists, and thinkers were reshaping American culture from Harlem to cities across the country. Jazz filled the air. Poetry told hard truths. Black voices demanded to be heard. Woodson saw this moment as an opportunity. He believed history could fuel pride, unity, and progress. By teaching the past, he hoped to inspire both Black Americans and white Americans to see the nation more honestly. Woodson had two clear goals. First, he wanted white America to understand that Black people were not outsiders to the American story. They were present at the nation's founding, worked its land, fought in its wars, and contributed to its growth. Because of this, Black Americans deserved full citizenship and fair treatment. His second goal was for Black Americans themselves. At a time when society constantly sent messages of inferiority, Woodson wanted Black people, especially young people, to see heroes who looked like them. He believed pride in the past could lead to confidence in the future. Decades later, the idea grew beyond 1 week. In 1969, black educators and the Black United Students at Kent State University proposed expanding the celebration into a full month. The first official Black History Month was celebrated in early 1970. By 1976, schools, cultural centers, and communities across the country had embraced it. That same year, during America's 200th anniversary, President Gerald Ford officially recognized February as Black History Month, urging Americans to honor Black achievements that had been too long neglected. Every U.S. president since then has done the same, and in 1986, Congress passed a law making it a national observance. The response was powerful. Black history clubs were formed, teachers expanded their lessons, libraries, museums, and communities began digging deeper into stories that had been overlooked for generations. But why did the fathers of Black History Month choose February? Carter G. Woodson did not choose February by accident. He chose it because the month already carried deep meaning in the story of Black freedom. February marks the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln, born on February 12th, and Frederick Douglass, long celebrated on February 14th. Lincoln helped bring an end to slavery through the Emancipation Proclamation and by supporting the 13th Amendment, while Douglass, once enslaved himself, became one of the most powerful voices against slavery America has ever known. By tying Negro History Week to these two men, Woodson connected Black history to the nation's long and painful struggle for freedom and justice. February also carries another powerful symbol, National Freedom Day. On February 1, 1865, President Lincoln approved the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery in the United States. Although it would take months for the states to ratify it, that date became a marker of hope. Years later, Major Richard Robert Wright Sr., a man who had been born into slavery and later became a civil rights leader and author, believed Americans should never forget that moment. He called for February 1st to be set aside as a day to honor freedom. After his death in 1947, Congress agreed, and in 1948, President Harry Truman signed National Freedom Day into law. All of this made February the natural home for Black history, already filled with reminders of struggle and sacrifice. Today, Black History Month remains deeply important, even as opinions about it differ. Within the United States of America, the month speaks to a powerful reality. In 1870, the black population of the United States was about 4.8 million. By 2018, it had grown to nearly 44 million. That growth represents not just numbers, but stories of survival and contribution across every part of American life. For generations, the contributions of Black Americans were ignored, minimized, or left out of school textbooks and public memory. Black History Month creates a dedicated time to highlight those missing stories and to show that Black Americans were not on the margins of history. They were central to building the nation, from its economy and culture to its politics and civil rights. It is also important because it strengthens identity and pride, especially for young people. Learning about Black inventors, soldiers, writers, activists, scientists, and leaders helps African Americans see themselves reflected in success, resilience, and leadership. At the same time, it challenges stereotypes by replacing one-dimensional narratives of struggle with fuller stories of achievement, creativity, and agency. Finally, Black History Month helps the country understand itself better. The Black experience is deeply tied to America's biggest ideas: freedom, equality, democracy, and justice. By revisiting that history each year, Americans are reminded that progress did not happen by accident. It was fought for. In this way, Black History Month is not just about the past, it is a tool for education, dialogue, and a more honest understanding of the United States today. At its core, Black History Month invites everyone to learn, remember, and reflect. What began 100 years ago as Negro History Week was never meant to stay small. To Woodson, it was a tool for pride and progress, a way for young Black Americans to know where they came from and to stand tall because of it. Today, that vision lives on, reminding the world that knowing Black history is not optional. It is essential.